The twin suns of Carthara rose above the silver mountains, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The air shimmered with heat, carrying the metallic scent of the alien desert. In the center of the grand arena stood Captain Adrian Vale, a human diplomat, facing hundreds of alien eyes watching him in silence. He had come here not to fight, but to talk, to make peace. Yet peace among the Carthari was not won through words. It was earned through trial, through strength and courage. The Carthari were a proud warrior race. They were tall, with skin like burnished bronze and glowing eyes that seemed to hold fire within. Their armor gleamed with inscriptions of victories that stretched across centuries, and standing above them all upon a stone dais was Queen Larasha, their ruler. She was taller than most of her warriors, elegant but fierce, her gaze sharp enough to silence an army. In her hands she held a weapon older than her empire, the Sun Sword forged from pure plasma energy. Legend said it chose who could hold it without harm, burning all others who dared. Adrian stood on the smooth arena floor, wearing only a simple uniform with the United Earth emblem on his shoulder. His ship waited far above in orbit, its crew anxious and silent. He could feel the weight of their hopes pressing on his shoulders. Humanity had finally reached this far corner of the galaxy, and if he failed, the Carthari might see all humans as weak. Queen Larasha's voice echoed through the arena. "Human, you claim to come in peace. Yet peace among warriors is hollow without strength. Prove that your kind is not built on words alone." Adrian bowed slightly. "I don't seek to fight your people, your majesty. But if courage is the language you respect, I'll speak it." The queen's lips curved faintly, a mixture of amusement and challenge. She gestured and her guard stepped back, forming a wide circle. The sun sword in her hand flared to life, its golden plasma humming like a storm trapped in metal. The crowd cheered as Larasha descended from her throne, her cloak rippling behind her. "You will face me," she declared. "No blood shall be drawn. Only your resolve shall be tested." The dual Adrian's heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He knew he stood no chance against her speed or strength, but this wasn't about winning. It was about understanding. He held no weapon. Instead, he took a defensive stance, observing her movements carefully. Larasha moved like lightning. Her sword cut through the air, its heat leaving faint ripples. Adrian dodged, barely avoiding the strikes, his boots scraping across the dusty ground. Every swing she made was a test of reflex, of fear, of courage. The crowd roared each time her blade missed him by inches. Adrian breathed deeply, keeping his mind steady. The heat burned his skin, sweat running down his face, but he did not falter. He noticed how her strikes slowed slightly whenever he didn't retaliate. She wasn't aiming to harm him, she was studying him. Minutes passed. Then, with a sharp movement, she struck the ground near him. The plasma blade hissed, sending a shockwave of energy that forced him to stumble. Her sword slipped from her grasp, sliding a few feet away, its light flickering. The crowd gasped. The sun sword was never meant to touch the ground, it was a sacred weapon. Larasha straightened, her eyes on the sword. But before she could move, Adrian took a slow step forward. He looked at her, then at the weapon, glowing softly on the sand. Everyone expected him to step back, to stay away from something so dangerous. Instead, he knelt. With calm movements, he reached for the sword, the seared hand. The moment his hand closed around the hilt, light exploded. The sun sword blazed bright enough to blind the nearest warriors. The plasma hissed, wrapping his arm in golden light. Adrian gritted his teeth as pain lanced through his palm. The sword was alive, and it rejected him. Smoke rose from his glove as the fabric melted away. Yet he didn't let go. His face twisted in pain, but he held firm. With a steady breath, he rose to his feet and turned toward Queen Larasha. Her eyes widened slightly, not in anger, but in disbelief. No creature outside her kind had ever touched the sun sword and survived. Adrian walked forward, his burned hand trembling, but his steps sure. He held the sword carefully, its light now dimmer, almost subdued, as if testing his resolve. When he stood before her, he offered it back. "Your weapon, your majesty," he said softly. "It belongs to you." A ripple passed through the arena. The Carthari warriors whispered in shock. Some took a step back. Larasha stared at the human, her golden eyes unreadable. Slowly she reached out and took the sword from his grasp. The moment her hand touched it, the blade flared once more, but it didn't burn him now. The light flowed smoothly between them like fire recognizing another flame. Adrian's hand, though scorched, no longer hurt. The sword's energy seemed to have cooled, leaving faint golden marks on his skin. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, one of the Carthari generals stepped forward, his voice trembling. He touched the sun sword and lived. Another warrior dropped his weapon, eyes wide with fear. The fire accepted him. That is impossible. Within seconds, several others followed, their weapons clattering to the ground. The sound echoed like falling stones in a silent hall. They bowed their heads slightly, not in surrender, but in awe. The queen's decision, queen. Lyrasha raised the sword high, its blade gleaming in the light. This human, she said, her voice calm but powerful, has done what none outside our kind could do. He showed no greed, no anger, only respect. His courage burns brighter than any plasma. The warriors murmured in agreement, some still shaken. Adrian remained silent, unsure whether he had just passed a test or started a new one. Lyrasha approached him, studying the faint burn on his hand. She seemed curious, almost cautious. Does it pain you? She asked. A little, he admitted with a faint smile, but I think it'll remind me to be careful next time I pick up a sacred sword. Her lips curved again, this time not in challenge, but amusement. It was the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. The sun sword reacts only to the truth within one's spirit, she explained. Those who hold malice it destroys. Those who carry courage and it tests. You have passed, Captain Vale. The arena fell into quiet respect. Even the wind seemed to pause. The gathering. After the duellator within the grand hall of Carthara, a feast was held. The walls shimmered with light crystals and holographic flames danced in golden bowls. Adrian sat near the queen, his hand bandaged but still marked with faint golden traces. Her advisors looked uneasy. Some could not believe what they had witnessed. One of them, a stern elder named Korath, spoke up. Your Majesty, humans are unpredictable. To trust one who wields fire as we do may be unwise. Lyrasha's gaze remained on Adrian. Perhaps unpredictability is what the galaxy needs, she said quietly. We have grown too used to power. Maybe it is time to meet those who carry courage instead. Adrian listened carefully, unsure whether she meant it as praise or warning. I didn't come here to change your ways, he said humbly, only to learn and to find peace between our worlds. Her eyes softened slightly. Then perhaps peace begins with understanding, not fear. The night of reflection. That night, Adrian stood alone on the balcony of his guest quarters. The twin moons glowed softly, bathing the alien city in silver light. Below, the Carthari streets were alive with movement, warriors still whispering the story of the human who faced the sun sword. He flexed his injured hand, the faint golden glow still pulsing beneath the bandage. It didn't feel painful now, more like a living reminder of something greater. He remembered the moment he picked up the sword. The blinding pain, the heat, the voice in his mind whispering fear or faith. He had chosen faith. Perhaps that was why it hadn't killed him. His communicator blinked. It was his first officer, Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, speaking from orbit. Captain, we've been watching the arena feed. Are you all right? He smiled slightly. I'm fine, Sarah, though I think I just made history without meaning to. There was a pause. The crew is proud of you, sir. But what happens now? Adrian looked out at the glowing city. Now, he said softly, we earn their trust. The Queen's private thought in the royal chambers, Queen Lyrasha stood alone, staring at her sword resting on its pedestal. The golden light pulsed faintly as if remembering the human's touch. For centuries, no outsider had been able to touch it and live. The sword's energy was tied to truth. It burned lies and pride, but respected purity of intent. She placed her palm over the hilt, feeling its warmth. You recognize him, she whispered. Why? The sword flickered in response, glowing brighter for a moment. She thought of the human's calm eyes, the way he had endured pain without anger. He had no shield, no armor, only courage. And somehow, that had been enough. For the first time in years, she felt uncertainty and respect. Perhaps the humans were not the fragile species she once believed. Perhaps their strength lay not in weapons, but in something far rarer. The whisper of change by morning, the story had spread beyond the capital. Traders, soldiers, and nobles all whispered of the event. Some called Adrian a fool. Others called him blessed. But among the younger warriors, a new feeling took root. Curiosity. They began to ask questions about humanity. What made them so fearless? How could a species with such short lives carry such unshakable resolve? For generations, the Carthari had seen themselves as unmatched. Yet now one act of courage had shaken that belief. The final scene, part 1 ending. Didn't come here to start a war, but if it keeps peace, then yes. Her eyes softened, though she tried to hide it. You are brave, human. Perhaps too brave. I just do what's right, he said simply. Lyrasha looked at him for a moment longer, then turned back to the map. Then we march at dawn. The March of Two Worlds. The next morning, the capital's gates opened, and the army of Carthara moved out in gleaming formation. Thousands of warriors marched beneath banners of gold and crimson. At their head rode Queen Lyrasha, the sun sword blazing in her hand. Beside her walked Adrian, wearing his simple Earth uniform, a faint glow from his scarred hand visible through the glove. The sight of the two, alien queen and human captain, marching side by side sent ripples of awe through the ranks. Some warriors whispered prayers. Others raised their blades in salute. Across the horizon, dust clouds rose. The rebel army approached. General Carthor's forces were vast, their armor blackened and marked with the ancient symbol of the true flame. When they stopped at the ridge overlooking the royal army, Carthor himself stepped forward, his eyes burning with anger. The confrontation. Carthor, Lyrasha called, her voice echoing across the valley. You raise arms against your own queen? Carthor's deep laugh rolled like thunder. I raise arms against weakness. You let an outsider defile our sacred traditions. You let him touch the sun sword. He pointed his weapon toward Adrian. That creature has poisoned your mind. Adrian stayed calm. You call me a creature, but I came here with no army, no weapon, and still I stand. Does that sound like weakness? Carthor sneered. Your kind knows nothing of fire and honor. Adrian took a slow step forward. Maybe, but I know what happens when pride burns brighter than reason. It destroys everything. The words carried weight. Even some of Carthor's soldiers shifted uncomfortably. The queen raised the sun sword high. Carthor, there will be no war today. Stand down and I will forgive your rebellion. But the general only roared and drew his massive plasma blade. If you have forgotten the old ways, then I will remind you with your own fire. The battle of the twin suns. With a shout, the rebel army charged. The ground trembled under the weight of thousands of feet. Lyrasha's army responded, meeting them in a clash of energy and steel. Adrian stayed near the queen, coordinating movements through his communicator. His calm voice guided the troops with precision, turning chaos into order. Lyrasha fought like a storm. The sun sword blazed with golden light, cutting through enemy ranks, its heat-melting weapons that dared to face it. Adrian, unarmed, focused on defense, using terrain, traps, and strategy. He ordered energy barriers to shift, forcing the rebels into narrow paths where they could not use their numbers. Even the Carthari generals were amazed. He fights without fear, one murmured. Still, Carthor's power was immense. He cut through several guards and confronted the queen directly. Sparks filled the air as their swords met plasma against plasma. You've grown weak, Carthor shouted. You fight beside a human. Lyrasha's voice was steady. Then this human will show you what true strength is. At that, she stepped aside. Adrian stood behind her, holding nothing but a fallen energy staff from a defeated soldier. His hand glowed faintly again, the golden burn pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He raised the staff. Let's finish this, Carthor laughed. You? You think you can stand against me? Adrian's calm expression didn't change. No, I don't think. I just do. The final clash, Carthor swung his sword, the energy roaring like fire. Adrian dodged, barely avoiding the strike. His staff blocked the next blow, sparks flying as the weapon cracked. Lyrasha watched, ready to intervene, but something stopped her. The sun sword in her hand hummed quietly as if telling her to wait. Carthor swung again. This time Adrian caught the blade mid-swing with his bare hand. A blinding light erupted. His glove burned away, the golden scar on his palm flaring brighter than ever before. The energy from Carthor's weapon collided with that light, and for a brief moment it shattered, disintegrating into particles of fire. Carthor stumbled back in disbelief. Impossible. Adrian's voice was quiet but steady. Power means nothing without purpose. He extended his glowing hand toward the ground. The heat from his palm spread in a ring of golden energy that rippled outward, disarming the nearby rebels. Their weapons fell apart in bursts of harmless light. Silence followed. The battlefield froze. The rebels stared in awe. Even Lyrasha's army stood still, watching the human whose hand glowed like the sun sword itself. The flame of respect Carthor fell to his knees, his pride breaking under the weight of the truth. "What are you?" Adrian lowered his hand, his voice calm. "Just human. Nothing more." Lyrasha stepped forward, the sun sword blazing again. She placed the tip near Carthor's shoulder. "You fought for honor," she said softly. "But you forgot what it truly means. It is not pride. It is courage." And he reminded us of that. The general bowed his head. "Forgive me, my queen." She sheathed her sword. "Rise and rebuild what you have broken." Slowly, Carthor obeyed. The battle was over, not won by destruction, but by courage and wisdom. The dawn of unity, in the days that followed, Carthara changed. The rebellion dissolved, and the people began to look at humans not as intruders, but as allies. The story of the battle spread across the galaxy. Songs were sung of the golden-handed human who stood beside the Fire Queen. Traders brought gifts from other worlds. Wanting to meet the species that tamed plasma with courage alone, Queen Lyrasha called Adrian to the palace once more. In the great hall before hundreds of warriors, she addressed the people. "Once I believed only our kind carried the fire of courage," she said, "but today I see that the flame burns in all who choose to stand for peace even when surrounded by war." She turned to Adrian. "Captain Vale of Earth, you came seeking peace and found honor. You have my eternal respect and that of my people." Adrian bowed. "The honor is mine, your majesty," she smiled. "Then let this be the first bond between Carthara and Earth. From this day, our flames burn together." The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers. The quiet ending that night. As stars filled the alien sky, Adrian stood once again on the palace balcony. The twin moons reflected on the silver towers below. Lyrasha joined him, her cloak fluttering in the warm wind. "You could have stayed on your ship and watched," she said, "but you chose to stand beside me." He looked at his glowing hand. "Courage doesn't work from a distance," she smiled faintly. "Your people are strange," he laughed softly. "We get that a lot." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the horizon. Then the sun sword, resting inside the palace, flickered once more, its light pulsing in rhythm with the faint glow from Adrian's hand. Two fires from two worlds now connected by honor. Lyrasha looked at him one last time. Perhaps the universe burns brighter because humans have joined it. Adrian's smile was calm and sure. Or maybe we just remind it what fire really means. As dawn broke, golden light spilled over the world of Carthara, and far beyond, across the stars, the story of humanity's courage continued to spread. One flame lighting another,